Hey friends, so in this video we will learn how to deploy a Ktor server on Heroku and use the MySQL database on Heroku itself. So this video or this whole process will be divided into two parts. So in the first part, I will teach you how to set up Heroku command line interface on your local machine and how to create an Heroku application and also set up your MySQL. And in the second video we will do some of the code setup, which is basically some pre-deployment setup that is required to do to make the Ktor application run on Heroku. So we will so let's get started. So I'll open Heroku, Google install Heroku CLI, and then depending on whether you have Mac or Windows, you just download the correct installer and you basically install it on your machine. Once this is set up, what you have to do is you have to go into your terminal and here type Heroku login, and you have to press a key and it will open Heroku in your browser, and then you basically just log in into Heroku by creating an account. Once that is done, so we will do that quickly here. So we are logged in using the email ID. Now what we have to do is we will install our MySQL plugin. So whenever we basically create Heroku applications, we can install plugins into our application. So first we will create our application by running the command Heroku create, and it will create our application. You can open this in a browser as well. So you can see that it's opening in the browser. And now we will install the MySQL plugin. So in our case, there is a plugin called JAWS DB. So we will install that, and you will type the command Heroku space add-ons create JAWS DB, and you will run this. So it will install this plugin into your Heroku application, which is Nameless Mountains. So in my case, the name of my application is Nameless Mountains. In your case, it will be different. Heroku gives a random name with a random number in front of it, and it is suffixed by herokuapp.com. So after that, we have to get our Heroku MySQL URL. So we will run this command Heroku config get JAWS DB URL. Once you run this command, we will get this long MySQL URL. So now we have to set this up into our Ktor application. So for that, we will open our database connections .kt, and we will copy this whole string and paste it after JDBC colon. So in this string, this is our username, this is our password, and this whole is our host and our port, and this is the database name. So what we have to do is we can basically cut this and paste it here, and then cut the password and paste it here, and then remove these two. Now let's run our application locally. And you see that it is successfully connected to MySQL database. So after we have successfully connected our Ktor application to the MySQL database, what we will do is we will create our Heroku connection in our MySQL Workbench. So we will open our Workbench. I'll close my current instance that I created, and I'll delete this one. So you click the plus sign, and you have to enter the same information here. So we will enter the host name. The port is already entered, and we'll copy the username and we'll copy the password as well, and we'll give it a name, Ktor API Heroku DB, and we'll test the connection here. So we'll paste the password, save password in keychain, click OK, and it says that the successfully made the MySQL connection. So this information is correct, and when we click OK, it will create our MySQL connections and we can open it by clicking on it. So now we will create our database. So the first thing we have to do is use our database. So we'll copy the database name from here, and then we will create our tables once again. And we will run all these commands. As you can see now, our both tables are created successfully. So to test this, what we will do is we'll go back to our IDE, run our server again, and we will go to Postman, and we will hit the nodes endpoint. So because we just created a database and the tables, it should return an empty list. So you can see that it is returning an empty list. And to test it further, what we will do is we will just create like few values in the nodes table. So the values has been inserted, and now we will call this endpoint again. And now you can see that you can get the same values that we added. Heroku server. So one thing that I forgot to mention in the last video is when we create our Heroku application, so it creates a git remote by the name of Heroku, and if you see that git remote -v, so it gives you the git link on the Heroku server for our Ktor application. So whenever we have to deploy this application to the Heroku server, we basically push our changes to the Heroku remote. So now in this video, we will do the pre-deployment setup. So the first setup is to install Gradle. So I have it already installed on my machine, but if you want to install, you just type the command brew install Gradle, and if you are on Windows, you can Google the right instructions and install Gradle on your Windows machine. So after that, one thing that we have to do is we have to check that if we have a Gradle wrapper.jar file. So to find that, we will go into our project directory, expand Gradle, expand wrappers, and under wrappers, it should have Gradle wrapper.properties and Gradle wrapper.jar. So you can see that the Gradle wrapper.jar is missing. So to generate that, we will just write the command Gradle wrapper. And now once the file has been created, you will see the file here. And now we have to add this file into our source code repository as well. So by default, all the jar files are ignored. So we go into a .gitignore, and once we scroll a bit down, so under packages, you see that. So I have already uncommented the star.jar. So you also comment this line here. And the next step that we will do is we have to create a Gradle task. So for that, we will go into our build.gradle, and we will simply write these 3 lines. So it says tasks.create stage and depends on install dist. So install dist is nothing but it assembles the distribution content and installs it on the current machine. So basically it initializes all the Gradle stuff for our application. So we will sync our build.gradle, and one step before we are able to commit and push everything, we have to do is we have to create a file in our root structure of a project, and the file's name is proc file. So this file is specific to Heroku and it is needed, and in this one we simply type this line web colon space build install, and this is the name of a project, and then build and again the name of a project. So you can actually find this if you go into the home directory, build install REST API crud bin, and this is an sh file. So proc file is basically the file that runs first when we deploy our application to Heroku, and it runs this command. So it runs this sh file or shell script to set up our whole application. And one last step that we have to do is we have to go to our application.kt, and instead of hard coding the port, what we have to do is we have to get the port from the environment. So we'll do system.get n, and here we'll type port and we'll convert it to int. So once all of these are done, so right now we are on a branch 08 JWT, so we won't be committing changes to this branch, rather we will check out into new branch and we will name it deployment, and now we'll commit some specific changes, not commit everything. So I'll expand this a little bit. So we'll do git add proc file build.gradle, then gradle wrapper, then our whole source folder, and then I think that's all, and then we'll add all these things and we'll check the status once again to make sure that we have added all the things. So now we will commit and we will push. So we have to push this in our Heroku remote as well. So this has been pushed, but you see that nothing has happened. So one thing that Heroku does is it looks for master branch. So from here we'll create another branch called master, and we'll push all of this in the master branch. So now this will take a lot of time. It will push and do a bunch of stuff, specifically the one that we defined in the proc file. So we'll wait for this to finish. So now you see that our application has been deployed to Heroku. So we'll try running it by clicking on it, and it will open in a browser, and if it says hello world, it has successfully been deployed. So we will copy the URL and open our Postman and replace the 8080 part with our URL, and then try to hit this endpoint. So now you can see that we are getting our notes, and now we can try creating a user as well. So we'll create the user. So the user has been created, and now we will log in. So we got the JWT token, and now let's do this. Copy this one into our headers, and you can see that it is returning us the logged in users information. So we have successfully deployed our Heroku application, or sorry, Ktor application on Heroku server, and we have tested it by hitting the endpoints that are on the Heroku server itself, and also connected to a MySQL shared instance by installing the JAWS DB plugin. And I hope you enjoyed this video. It is a bit confusing process in the beginning, but once you get used to it, it's pretty much very easy. And once you are able to deploy it once, the future deployments become very easy. It's just a matter of committing the changes and pushing them. Unless like you are connecting it to a different database, then you have to do those different database setups as well. So that's all for right now.